ahead and let's get started. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for a creative aging webinar. The focus is the impact of dance and creative movement on older adults. And just a little housekeeping before we get started. This webinar is in a meeting format and not a webinar format. So you can get interactive. You can interact with us in the chat. You will want to put yourself on mute for any background noise, but there will be an opportunity coming up for you to perhaps come off mute and participate in a conversation. Just to kick us off real quick, I'm going to hand it over to Chandra Boyd, our agency's Deputy Director. Chandra?
All right, thanks, Erica, and good afternoon, everyone. As Erica mentioned, I'm Chandra Boyd, and I'm the Deputy Director for the Oklahoma Arts Council. We are the official state agency for the support and development of the arts in Oklahoma. And I am so proud to work with our team to advance arts education initiatives across communities statewide. I'm especially excited about the work being accomplished through our Creative Aging Initiative. We endeavored to focus on this type of work nearly 10 years ago. I know we maybe have like a year and a half to go, but still, I'm rounding up to 10 when we began a partnership with the Norman Veterans Center. And at that time, we were serving older adults in a skilled nursing facility. However, our efforts have not been limited to this type of setting or population. So we've worked alongside many national organizations for arts and aging, other agencies here in Oklahoma, and local artists and communities statewide to promote the benefits of arts on aging through creative engagement and creative expression, through professional development opportunities. And this work really hit a turning point in 2021 when we received funding from the National Assembly of State Arts Agencies and the A.E. Michelson Foundation to advance our creative aging efforts. And that enabled us to bring Erica to our team. So she has been expanding that work and the impact ever since. So thank you, Erica. Before I turn it back to her, I just wanted to share that all of our grants, programs, and services here at the Oklahoma Arts Council are driven by our mission to lead, cultivate, and amplify the transformative power of the arts for all Oklahomans and their communities. And we could not fulfill our mission without dedicated folks like you all who have a passion for connecting people and communities through the arts. So thanks again for being with us here today.
Thanks for that, Chandra. Okay, like she said, I'm Erica, and I am heading up this initiative. And I see some familiar colleagues out there. I see some new faces. I want to also, I can see my colleagues' faces, and I thought maybe folks, OAC team out there, would you unmute and just say a quick hello?
Hello, I'm Scott Cowan. I'm the Web Publications Director here at the Oklahoma Arts Council.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Allen Barron, Arts Education Director here at the Oklahoma Arts Council.
Hi, everyone. This is Thomas Tran. I'm the Grants Director here at Oklahoma Arts Council.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so today we have a treat coming up, a conversation with a scientist and an artist. They will be exploring the topic of the impact of dance and creative movement on the aging process. They're also here to discuss the perils of everyday ageism and the role of creative aging in a potential culture shift. And before I hand it over to them, I just wanted to share some updates on the local front on some data that has recently come out about aging and what we're projecting. This is from the State Plan on Aging report. This is a 3-year report from 2023 projected to 2026. This is a plan as well. So take a look at what's projected for Oklahoma just to ground us in what's to come. By 2030, the population of older Oklahomans is projected to increase by 21.3%. And for the first time in Oklahoma, seniors will outnumber children. The report projected significant let me go back to that. significant challenges ahead in the terms of infrastructure. And they projected a real need for more partnerships and collaborations with state agencies and with local community organizations to better serve the needs of older Oklahomans. They've outlined a real clear need for thinking outside of the box, and we know that arts can do that. We know, because studies have been done to prove this, community-based programs run by professional artists have powerful positive effects. This is what the studies are pointing to. They point to true health promotion and disease prevention. And there is indeed a positive impact on maintaining independence for older adults and on reducing dependency. These findings could indicate that creative aging programs could impact the health systems that support older adults. So on that note of health and just grounded into what's to come, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and hand it over to Dr. Julie Ober Allen. And as you get your slide deck together, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Dr. Julie Ober Allen. She is the Assistant Professor of Health Promotion at the University of Oklahoma, the Director of Stress and Health Disparities Lab, and affiliated faculty at the University of Michigan. Her research focuses on how exposure to chronic stressors rooted in social and structural inequities contribute to disparities in chronic disease among older adults. Dr. Allen is particularly interested in routine forms of ageism, such as messages that aging is undesirable and unattractive, interactions shaped by ageist stereotypes, and when older adults believe prejudices about aging and old age themselves. Dr. Allen investigates the way in which these and other examples of everyday ageism contribute to a poor mental and physical health outcomes among older adults. She's actively involved in national and local efforts to combat ageism. Thank you for being here, Dr. Allen. I'm going to hand it over to you.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for inviting me to join this wonderful group. But I just wanted to sort of start by acknowledging that there's very much a lack of agreement on a definition of what is old and sort of who are older adults. So if everyone would just sort of take a moment, think about sort of what age is the age at which sort of people transition from sort of whatever middle adulthood into older adulthood. And I would share that when I ask my teenage son and his friends this, they often say something like 50. However, when I speak with adults sort of in the ballpark of age 65, they typically pick something like 85. So there's this very broad range of even what constitutes old and sort of what is older adults. The federal government typically uses sort of ages 65 and up. So the age at which people are eligible for Medicare, and the old age at which people were eligible for sort of full Social Security benefits. The average age of retirement in the United States for those who are actually able to retire is 64 right now. Other people, however, have different definitions. Some people say things like, you're only as old as you feel. And so for them, old is very much sort of self-defined. It's sort of more related to sort of health and functioning and attitude, frankly, more so than chronological age. And I'll actually add that in my research, and I study a lot of the relationships between sort of aging and health, I actually use the age of 50 and up for our studies. And there's a couple of reasons for this. Most reports of age-based discrimination and the ages at which adults sort of feel like people start to treat them differently and sort of refer to them as moving into older age. Those reports typically start for people when they're in their 50s. We also often find that diagnoses with many health conditions that are sort of common amongst older US adults, a lot of those diagnoses are happening when people are in their 50s. Although we do find that in some socially marginalized groups, low income communities of color, we actually even find some of those diagnoses starting when people are in their 40s. So there's a lot of different definitions, even of what constitutes old age. And then most of this is going to be familiar to all of you, but I just sort of wanted to put it out there to make sure that we were all on the same page. I want to talk a little bit about older adult health. We have generally found that over time, over the course of history, the health status of older adults has improved. But that being said, in general, when we compare older adult health outcomes to those of younger adults, the outcomes are not quite as good in a lot of different areas. We do find that older adults tend to have more limitations to their sort of activities of daily living. They're more likely to have either sensory or memory impairments, and that 3 out of 4 older adults in the United States have diagnoses of chronic health conditions of at least 2 or more. So things like arthritis, hypertension, diabetes, cancers, things of that nature. And in general, older adults have actually far higher healthcare costs on an average in an average year when compared to younger adults. So looking at those ages 65 and up, average healthcare costs are above $12,000 a year, compared to about $7,000 a year for someone between the ages of 40 and 64. So that being said, generally speaking, older adults tend to have healthier behaviors than younger adults. They're less likely to consume large quantities of alcohol. They're less likely to smoke. They're less likely to be overweight. And in general, we refer to this U curve of happiness. We find that children tend to have the highest happiness scores when we ask them to sort of rate their happiness, but these scores start going down with people in sort of their 20s and 30s and 40s. But then sort of starting at around age 50, happiness scores go up. So even though we do find, at least in terms of some sort of physical health outcomes, older adults tend to have worse health than their younger counterparts. In terms of sort of mental and emotional health, on average, as a population, older adults tend to be quite a bit happier than their younger counterparts. So there are many different things that influence the health of older adults sort of in general. But one important factor that I am particularly interested in, and that often is actually rather overlooked, particularly in the health research and the public health field, is how societal attitudes and expectations of aging and older adults and related age-based discrimination can affect the health of older adults. And this is an interest of the Oklahoma Arts Council and something that we share in common, and that's part of why I am here today. So this is just a little bit on me. I'm going to talk about my research before transitioning to how it relates to creative aging initiatives. Erica will be filling in some of the gaps with stories and some real life examples illustrating some of the points that I'll be making. But as the other, we have multiple Erica. So anyways, as Erica from the Oklahoma Arts Council mentioned, I'm an assistant professor of health promotion at OU, and I run the Stress and Health Disparities Lab. So we conduct research to better understand how factors cause disparities in chronic disease amongst older adults. And I'm particularly interested in how sources of stress, things like stereotypes and discrimination, and it may be related to age or race or other things, but how those influence people's mood, how they influence cognition, how they influence behavior, but then also how they can even influence biology over the life course. So today I'm going to share just a little bit of my research related to ageism and positive experiences of aging, and then how they may relate to health. So I'm going to start by talking about ageism. Ageism refers to stereotypes, prejudice, and discrimination related to old age, aging processes, and older adults. And while people of any age can potentially be discriminated against due to their age, today I'm focusing on older adults because they are systematically disempowered, devalued, and excluded from many aspects of contemporary society. And while there has been a bit of an uptick in discussions about ageism that sort of coincided with the COVID pandemic, it's been really interesting that ageism has not been extensively researched, particularly in its potential implications for health when compared to other forms of discrimination. That being said, ageism is deeply embedded within our society. research with children at sort of that preschool age, so 2 and 3-year-olds in the United States, are not only aware of different sort of age-based categories that we use in society, they actually exhibit ageist beliefs. So even, these very young children are picking up on sort of societal categories related to age and societal beliefs related to age, and can sort of replicate them in their interactions. Ageism is generally thought to be the most common and the most socially accepted form of prejudice and discrimination in the United States, as well as in Europe. And I recently completed a study in which more than 93% of US adults ages 50 through 80 in a nationally representative sample reported that they experienced one or more forms of ageism on a regular basis. So this is not, sort of one example or one instance, but that they were experiencing it on a pretty routine basis. Now, most of the research on the adverse consequences of ageism on the lives of older adults focused on discrimination and employment, things related to housing as well as healthcare. So just to give an example, older adults are regularly denied medical care, including life-saving procedures such as an organ transplant, due to chronological age alone, and not any other medical counterindicators suggesting that they would not respond well. There's some research that estimates that more than $63 million annually in the United States in terms of healthcare costs is actually attributable to ageism. So the fact that older adults often are not given the prescriptions that are medically recommended. They often are not advised to seek additional care for certain conditions. And it's largely due to age, largely due to these societal beliefs about sort of what's normal for older adults, what they should expect. And so we have found associations, people who experience more ageism are more likely to have a wide range of poor health outcomes, ranging from poor mental health and quality of life, more chronic diseases, more functional limitations, and also premature mortality. Older adults who report experiencing more ageism tend to die on an average of 7 years earlier than those who report lower amounts. So one particular form of ageism that I am interested in is this routine ageism that older adults encounter in their day-to-day lives. I refer to this as everyday ageism. So just take a moment to think about the last time you saw a birthday card with a joke about growing old. Or you maybe opened a magazine only to be bombarded with advertisements for anti-gray, anti-wrinkle, anti-aging products and procedures. Have you ever heard an older adult be told, "Oh, you look so good for your age," or "You have so much energy"? Or perhaps you've witnessed people assuming that older adults have memory problems or sit at home doing nothing every day. Another aspect of everyday ageism is when older adults start to believe some of the stereotypes and prejudices about aging themselves, perhaps thinking that getting lonely is a normal part of aging, that there's nothing they could do about it, or that poor health is inevitable. So one additional point that I just want to make about everyday ageism is that it's especially likely to be ignored. In our society, it's much more likely to be dismissed as no big deal. Some examples of ageism and age-based discrimination are thought to be funny, or they're thought to be considerate, helping the little old lady carry her groceries to the car when maybe she doesn't need anyone's help. Some examples of everyday ageism are really thought to be complimentary, yet these types of comments and repeated exposure to these sort of narrow ideas of what's acceptable behavior for older adults strip older adults of their individuality, and they are regularly used at a societal level to justify treating older adults with less respect and fewer rights. So as I said, in the survey that we did recently, again, this was a nationwide survey of US adults between the ages of 50 and 80. We found that over 93% reported that they regularly experience one or more forms of ageism. And we actually sort of broke it down into 3 different categories to sort of see, what is it that older adults report on most often. The first was ageist messages, which refers to exposure to environmental or societal messages reflecting ageist stereotypes, and 65% of older adults reported encountering these regularly. We also looked at ageism in interpersonal interactions. So when people make assumptions about older adults based on ageist stereotypes and then treat them accordingly, and that was reported by almost half of adults ages 50 to 80. And then also internalized ageism, which is again when older adults believe some of these stereotypes about aging and about older people. And this was actually the most commonly endorsed category, with more than 81% older adults endorsing ageist messages. This is just a side note because it's really interesting and sometimes it surprises people. As I said, we found really high rate of report of ageism in this nationwide sample, but it wasn't just those 65 to 80. We did find certainly higher rates of report of everyday ageism amongst the 65 to 80-year-olds. So about 96% reported that they experience everyday ageism regularly. But even in the 50 to 64 age group, the rate was 92%. So, ageism is really starting to impact the lives of even what, many of us might think of as sort of those on the younger end of the older age spectrum. So just quickly, I just wanted to share a little bit of our findings with the study. We found that people who reported more everyday ageism were much more likely to also report poor physical and mental health. So those who reported more everyday ageism were at increased risk of categorizing their own health and their own physical health as fair or poor. They were much more likely to have multiple chronic health conditions, to rate their mental health as fair or poor, and also to report depressive symptoms. But an important sort of take-home message from this is that health problems that are typically attributed to chronological age may in fact be caused or exacerbated by societal attitudes about aging. And sometimes when I give this presentation, people are like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. This is all so depressing. But there's another way to sort of, consider this last point. If health problems we typically associate with aging are actually exacerbated by ageism, then they might also be preventable. If we are able to start breaking down some of these ageist beliefs and stereotypes in broader society, but also ones that we may believe ourselves, we might actually be able to prevent the onset of poor health conditions. We might actually be able to perhaps prevent them altogether. Oops. All right, so there we are. So as our research has shown, ageism is linked to poor health outcomes. We do believe that relationship probably goes both directions. People who have poor health may also report more ageism and may actually experience more ageism. There's actually quite a bit of research that suggests that ageism may precede poor health for many people. But creative aging initiatives have incredible potential to combat ageism and to promote health. So and these are just sort of my thoughts and some early brainstorming we did prior to this meeting. Creative aging initiatives have the potential to break down stereotypes of what older adults are supposed to look like, how they're supposed to behave, what they're capable of doing. And this is relevant both for older adults themselves, to sort of really break down some of those beliefs they may have, but also for observers, for their friends, for their families, for people who, just happen to witness older adults who may not sort of fit into these really sort of narrow boxes that we try to put them in. In addition, creative aging initiatives have a lot of potential to promote positive experiences of aging. So things, and another branch of my research really shows that positive experiences of aging can really buffer people against some of the potential negative impacts of ageism on their health. Positive experiences of aging are associated with better health outcomes, better mental health, better physical health. So things like having purpose in life, feeling respected and valued for one's opinions and experience, wanting to be a good example for younger people, or greater social acceptance of not working full time and spending more time with family. feeling more comfortable with oneself or with one's body. So I'm going to sort of stop there. Here's just a little bit of more information on myself if you have questions for me in the future, or if you want to read a little bit in greater depth about some of the work that we are doing. And I'd be happy to share these slides at a later date. Right. That is it for me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Julie. You have given us so much to think about. I'm going to just hand it right over to Erica because I think she's going to make a nice transition into the creative aging realm. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Erica as she gets together her slide deck. Erica Portell is the Community Engagement Manager for the Oklahoma City Ballet, overseeing community dance offerings, including senior programs, the Golden Swans, and Dance for Parkinson's Disease. Erica has been featured in several local news programs highlighting senior dance. She's a presenter at the Davis Finney Foundation for Parkinson's Victory Summit and is featured in nationwide articles in Parade magazine. She has completed advanced trainings through Mark Moore's Dance for PD program, as well as Ageless Grace and Creative Aging, and has over 20 years teaching experience in varieties of dance genres. After retiring from a professional dance career, Erica has been pursuing teaching dance as an activity that can enrich all lives, regardless of age, physical limitations, or socioeconomic backgrounds. Essentially, she believes that dance is for all humans. Thank you, Erica. I'll hand it to you now.
All right. Hello. Thanks for that lovely introduction. Also, I would like everyone to acknowledge that my slide says community engagement manger. I would just like us all to look at it so that we've all seen it. I've looked at it. Thank you for that lovely introduction. A little bit about the history of our program here at Oklahoma City Ballet. I think most people know Oklahoma City Ballet as the place where you go to see the Nutcracker or little kids in pink skirts swirl around and dance, and that definitely happens. But we also have a really robust community engagement program, which includes Golden Swans, which within our Golden Swans umbrella, we have Dance for Parkinson's and a couple of other collaborative classes. Dance for PD. There's a lot of overlap between the participants in our Golden Swans and Dance for PD program and in how we program them. We also have Coffee and Dance and Coffee and Class, which are two different collaborative intergenerational experiences done in conjunction with the Metropolitan Library System, as well as a couple of other local community organizations. Golden Swans really started out of an amazing teacher that we had associated with our organization, LJ Ward. If you know dance in Oklahoma City, you probably know her. She was a real powerhouse, and around 2014, she was going to a lot of senior facilities and offering classes for so many more experienced adults that expressed they missed dancing from when they were younger, or they didn't have the opportunity to try when they were younger and were afraid that the moment had passed. And LJ was there to say, the moment has not passed, the moment is now. So the program began to grow, and within our relationship, we thought, how can we give this program the respect and validation that it is due? And we sort of incorporated it within our programming and sought out grants and funding so that it could be free to anyone that wanted to try. And again, our overarching philosophy was anyone that wants to dance should be dancing. All humans should be dancing if they want to. So the community impact, last year we calculated that we interacted with 1,147 seniors in one capacity or another, in the capacity of teaching dance. Our partnerships with the Metropolitan Library, as well as Epworth, Healthy Living Center, Senior Centers, the Salvation Army, tons of partners helped make this possible, as well as large public events. The feedback we got immediately was, first, we have more requests for teachers than for teaching artists than we can provide. There's an overwhelming desire for it when it's delivered in a way that's impactful. My personal experience teaching within this program the ripple effect that it causes within participants and their family and community is astounding to me. I have people coming to me saying, now that I've attempted this and successful, I'm also going to try. I had a student that tried skydiving. I did ballet, next skydiving. The ripple effect of, we have multi-generational families within our organization, and we had spouses and children communicate how different their relationships within their family were because someone decided to do dance for Parkinson's or Golden Swans. It caused a ripple effect of what else they were willing to try within their community. It created a new social circle and a support system that had not previously existed. I would say the positive feedback testimonials happen anecdotally every week, where I'm hearing about participants that are now like, I'm carrying my groceries. Before, if someone offered me help, I automatically took it, assuming that I needed it. But now I know that I can do Grand Battement in Golden Swans. I don't need help carrying groceries. So the nationwide coverage has been really unexpected, and kind of, I think, reinforces the idea of what Julie was saying, is that there is like an overarching perception that you get to a certain age and you are done being a variety of things, including a dancer or an artist. The number of requests that we've had for articles and news coverage, and from other organizations saying, how do we do this at our arts facility, has been astounding. Another unexpected impact is it's really helped us break stereotypes of dance. So I'm going to get into some of the ageism stereotypes that it's impacted later, but it's really opened to the idea that inclusivity and dance being for everyone is a really broad topic. And one of the strongest held beliefs was that it was for people who are youthful, that there's an age expiration by which you no longer should enjoy moving your body, which is shocking to me. Okay, so I would like to get into some of the practical application of how this actually works and why it's effective in a really nuts and bolts kind of way. I think one of the main ways that quality arts programming can avoid some of these ageist tropes or stereotypes is to shift the idea of a watering down concept. I know when I first started teaching in any kind of adaptive or inclusive dance way, the model was to look at or remember your own professional experience and imagine that that was here, to take that experience and scale it down, not just in a physical way, but also in an emotional, mental, intellectual, experiential way, artistic way, water it down in every capacity until it was just a remnant of what the that top experience was. And I think it created something that felt unimportant, pandering, and sort of infantilized older adults and anyone that wanted an inclusive experience. So one thing that has really sort of flipped the programming around in our organization has been to look at it in the reverse way. Instead of thinking as the highest pinnacle of professionalism as being the standard of what we are trying to attain, what does it mean to look at it from the reverse and build? What is the building point of going scaffolding up instead of tearing down? For example, if you look at the model of someone who is in dance for Parkinson's or Golden Swans and would like to use a chair to sit in, to do the movement seated, or a bar or other means of balancing. I think previously the model was take a really high level movement and scale it down until it's very watered down. Instead, if you flip the idea of what can you do in a chair that you cannot do standing? How can you layer the difficulty and the level of sophisticated movement that a chair can imbue with? And now I would say some of our chair or adaptive movement is the most complex movement we have. So I think it's changing the perception of this is real dance, and we will create some fake dance adjacent movement for seniors. Instead of it being an adjacent situation, it has its own layer of creativity and draws on the experience of more mature adults to create something that's new and equally as inspiring. So in the realm of keeping the programming relevant and substantial, music, I think there is a perception that senior adults really just want oldies. My current favorites within my Golden Swans class, if we ever take a break from doing balletic style movement and incorporate some other things, one of their favorite warm-ups right now is to MC Hammer Can't Touch This. So I think if you asked a general population, do 60-year-olds enjoy dancing to Can't Touch This, they would say no, and I know that that's a lie. They do like it. So drawing on music experience that is relevant to them and not just a perception of what, quote, older adults would like to hear. Intellectual engagement with them, drawing on their experience. When we're doing something and I'm referencing a time period, for example, I'll say this movement became really popular within a ballet that was created in the 1970s for the New York City Ballet by George Balanchine. There are potentially people within my class that experienced that moment. So to draw from the wealth of their real life experience of, yes, I remember when that happened. I remember when it was controversial, drawing on that experience for a richer arts moment for all of us. Empowering movement choice. So again, the idea of not watering down and saying, oh, I've looked at you from an outside perspective. You appear to be quite elderly. Please hold on to this chair. Instead, movement being presented as, here's one way to do this movement. Here's another way to do this movement. Here's a third way to do this movement. And each of them showing, maybe one is fully standing, not holding on to anything. Maybe another's holding onto a chair. Maybe another's holding onto a bar. Maybe another is seated. Then they self-select as the experts on their own body and their own life experience to decide what works best for them, which can also fluctuate from week to week, class to class, as opposed to me determining in week one of a class, oh, you sit for this. Empowering them to decide what is best for their body, where then they have control and ownership over the experience. So responsive to community feedback. In an effort to not assume people need help or accommodations, I start from a place of zero help. I might demonstrate choices, but it's not presented as help. You need help, please use this. It's choices. So I will say, you may choose to use this bar, you may choose to use this one, you may choose to use this chair, you may choose to use none of that. And then also, it's a very open environment. I say, if there's another way that you would like to choose to do this, please feel free to ask me for how to make that work. I initially in class was setting up bars and chairs for everyone ahead of time. And then a couple of times I was stuck in rehearsal and late to class. They set up the class themselves. It was an eye-opening moment for me of, I have assumed they need help doing this task. They do not need my help doing this task. They're perfectly capable of doing it. If they need help, they have access to helping. Then they have ownership over it. Also simple things, and they gave me feedback of how they would like to be communicated with. We would prefer email, we would prefer a phone call, we would prefer you print it, we would prefer a large font. We would prefer having class not face the window where the sun is coming in. A couple of us have had cataract surgery, but giving them the ownership of they are going to give me that feedback. I'm not going to assume it's needed. I think another thing is maintaining professionalism and expertise as you would any other dance or art experience. For example, if I was teaching young adults, I would have certain levels of, I would expect a certain level of decorum and formality within ballet training. There's no talking in the middle of ballet training. The teacher is the expert in the room. There's certain levels of procedures and protocols that initially I was very tempted to put to the wayside out of the idea that these are older adults. They will not want to have those same expectations of formality and respect for teacher kind of guidelines. But I was making the experience less for them. So maintaining the same level where they get the same experience as any other class. All right, so marketing and partnerships. I've mentioned partnerships before, and I just can't really stress how essential they have been to our programming being a success. What is already working in the community? So we started looking around at what classes are already effective and happening. The library has really good attendance for some of their senior programming. So we were like, what time of day is that? How are you asking people if they want to do it? What is the process? And then you also have a network of the participants themselves that are already active in doing things that continue to reach out to their bubble and do a lot of the marketing for us. A sample class is incredibly effective. Initially, when we started offering Golden Swans and Dance for Parkinson's, we had 0 men, absolutely 0. And when we would attempt to recruit or encourage, they would say things to the effect of, we don't want to wear pink tutus and prance about. There was no way for me to dispel that myth other than for them to come to class. So I would go where they were. And I would say, you could just watch maybe. You're not even required to participate, just watch. I would say now we have a solid 30% attendance of men in our classes. So the sample class is really effective. Even if it's a class that we host internally at our Oklahoma City Ballet location, if we want to get it rolling, we know that the way to do that is to go do a sample out in the community where they're already interacting. So bribery, it's really blunt. It really works, just flat out bribery. So some of it is food, coffee. Our coffee in class was born out of us trying to get new people to try dance formats. We set up coffee. We gave them time to socialize. We made it intergenerational where families were invited, kids were invited, sure. Anyone that wanted to come, they were like, can I bring my neighbor's nephew that I'm babysitting? Absolutely, bring everyone. Dance party is for everyone. So bribery. We also offer discounts on tickets to shows and then incentives to return to class. Anytime there is a holiday or special event, it could be Shave the Yak Day. And I will say, don't miss class on Thursday. Something special is happening for Shave the Yak Day. Just flat out bribery. Because I know once they get in there, I won't need to bribe them anymore because they're going to enjoy the experience that they're having so much. So guests and support. Our answer is that guests are always welcome. You want to bring your neighbor, you want to bring someone else, 100% always welcome. And if you have someone that provides support to you in a significant way in your life, we noticed there were a couple of people that had someone drive them and then would sit in the lobby while they participated in class. And we slow rolled them into being in class. Let me put this chair inside the classroom for you. You can just sit inside the classroom and watch. If you want to get up and do 2 or 3 exercises, great. If you want to sit down for the rest of class, just accommodating whatever guests and support they would like to have to participate in class has been really effective for us. Okay, so a big part of success within our program is teaching artist success. Having the right teaching artist where class is meaningful and impactful, all the things I've listed before, is having the right person at the front of the classroom. So the commitment to philosophy, it goes much deeper than just hypothetically, do you think older adults should have access to dance? Probably everybody's like, sure, that sounds great. But it's in a very real way, meaning if I'm teaching class, I'm not going to say, wow, my leg used to just kick sky high, but I'm old now. I'm aging, it doesn't go as high. So it's even things as simple as modeling the philosophy of classes intentional and classes artistic, and I'm not going to degrade my own experience by making ageist comments. So I am intentionally seeking out teaching artists that I will bluntly say to them, if you are trying to just make money, if you need to make money and teach more things, let me help you find it. If your motivation for teaching senior adults is money, that will not be the pathway to you being happy. While we do pay a wage that's fair, if the money is your main motivator, I feel like it's a fail. Clear training. So our teachers are all experienced within a layered scaffolding or building of skills in a variety of ballet curriculum and dance. So whatever the art form is, they have clear training in that, not just professional experience. Professional experience does not equate an understanding of how to scaffold and layer movement in a way that is safe and effective. They're supported through trainings with ABT, a bunch of other teaching mechanisms that are specific to ballet, jargony, but they have that training initially. Then they're required to complete an internal training. We have developed a syllabus and best practices based on our teaching artists that have been doing it for years, and consult with physical therapists about best methods of teaching and how to do it in a way that's safe, so that anyone going in to teach does not feel as if they're going to encounter something they don't know the answer for. Also clear expectations and oversight. We are tracking attendance. If your class suddenly goes from 15 people to 4 people, we will be having a discussion about it, and not in a you're in trouble kind of way, in a let me support you and find out what's going on in your class. We also reach out to participants regularly for feedback. This is formal in the form of surveys and emails. It's also informal, as in me popping by and talking to you after class, asking about, your swimming, sewing, whatever it is, and also how are you liking class. We are also always continually open to continuing education and best practices. Things change. As recently as 10 years ago, the general guideline for teaching seniors ballet was don't make them jump. Now it's if they want to jump, let them jump. It's good for them. It's good for their bones. It was kind of an ageist thing to say blanket, nobody jumps. So continuing ed and best practices, especially with people like lovely Julie doing research on, feedback of what is actually happening. We rely on research to change and be flexible. Structuring culminating events. So along with all of this is external. That's pretty obvious. You have a performance, you have a show, you have a recital, you have a guest visit. Some of our participants are incredibly motivated by that. They love getting ready for something that will be an external way for them to show what they've been learning. One of the ageist things that I experienced before was that, nobody wants to see, quote, old people dance. I know from inviting people to come, that is a big fat lie. People do want to see people dance. People want to see people enjoying dance. For those participants that aren't really into that external culminating event, we have internal culminating events, meaning we have 4 weeks. 4 weeks, we're going to work on something continuously. Our only goal is that, say, for example, we're working on a line dance. In the 4 weeks, the line dance will be completed, or the sequence of choreography will be completed, and we will perform it for our own internal enjoyment. It's not for anyone else, but it does create the idea of a deadline, which leads me to the idea of stagnation versus growth. I think another old mindset about teaching seniors was that you cannot expect growth or progression or increase of skill or accumulating of new skills, that merely the goal is to sort of stagnate and prevent decline. But the reverse of decline is not stagnate, it's grow. So we absolutely like a culminating event to layer difficulty to increase the idea that you will continue to grow and progress. And in fact, that's a normal part of your dance and arts training for anyone, regardless of your age, is the accumulation of skills. So it requires, or it encourages the idea of urgency. So I think another sort of ageist idea is, don't plan too far ahead, you're old. Which is silly. That's how humans give framework to their life and look forward to something, is by having a deadline or a culminating event. So as we've done these, it started out where none of our participants were really into doing an external culminating event. And as we sort of did them where it was an internal culminating event, maybe it was invite your family to come and we'll have snacks and you can show them something. Now they are very much into it. And actually several of them have said, when will we be in professional shows? And that is another thing that we're examining. We're looking into that. Okay. So using this to combat ageism and stereotypes, I think we've said a lot of them, but I think one thing that's really clear and different about using dance and art is at no point is this presented as exercise or therapy. No one discloses health information unless they just do it in conversation. I don't need to know any sort of injury, illness, anything, and I'm not going to evaluate that for you. While you will get exercise and while there will be therapeutic benefits from dancing, in no time will it be presented that way. Something we say internally a lot in meetings is I've never had an emotional, therapeutic, spiritual connecting feeling on a treadmill. If you have, more power to you. I envy that. But this is dance presented as an artistic experience, not as a you are broken or old, let's fix your balance. Like, we're going to be working on balance because it's a part of the artistic expression of dance, not because you are old or need help. No apology needed. So I find myself doing this when I hear other people doing it. Oh, sorry, I could do that before. I can't do it now. Please excuse my insert fill in blank. No, there's no apology needed in the artistic expression of dancing. Again, that goes back to the teaching artist modeling that and it being the culture of the class. So approximating youth, I feel like this is rampant in dance, specifically ballet, where the goal of movement is perceived to be the approximating of youth. And in reality, within the context of teaching Golden Swans, there is a layer of beautiful artistry that is brought to the experience by older adults that younger participants cannot bring. If I try to explain to a child between the ages of 11 and 15 that I would like for them to imbue a movement with a sense of bittersweet and longing and aware of their mortality in the universe, they cannot do that. So I might tell them to think longingly of a donut they ate last week, which creates an experience. But if I say to someone who has lived 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 years of life, think of a moment in your life where you were incredibly happy, but also you're acutely aware that time is gone. That movement has a layer of complexity that has nothing to do with their physical execution of it, that you can feel when watching and doing, that is beautiful. And that has nothing to do with approximating youth. A youth couldn't even approximate that movement. So reprogramming the internal narrative. So I think generally people think of the mirror and dance as a way of giving critical feedback to oneself. My leg is not high, my arm is too low. And while it is valuable in that way, we've also really experienced a new way to use it. If you look at yourself in the mirror doing something and you hear a teacher giving you feedback that you are doing it well, and even better, you look at yourself and you're enjoying watching yourself do it, it can reprogram the internal narrative of apologizing for a litany of things that happen naturally when you age. It is hard to look in the mirror and feel that you should apologize for arthritic joints when you see them creating something that is beautiful. So it's using the mirror physically and the mirroring of the teacher's feedback to change the internal narrative, where instead of having an adversarial relationship with your body, where it's like you against your body being angry at it for changing, it's an acceptance and a kinder relationship, a kind of a magic that can happen there. So using the dance and the mirror to give yourself positive feedback. So this one has been the absolute biggest surprise to me. I went into senior programming thinking, this is something I will give to the seniors. I will give to the older adults. They will be grateful at my magnanimous gift of dance to them. And the shocking, really exciting thing has been the way they have affected the fabric of our organization. It has been the #1 way that we have convinced board members, parents, the powers that be, donors, building scheduling, all of it. We've been able to help point out to them the beauty and importance of what we are doing. So the intergenerational support and engagement. So we, being affiliated with a professional ballet company, my favorite example is that we have students that dance between 8 and 3 p.m. Monday through Saturday. These are young people. They're between the ages of 12 and 18, and their goal is to be professional dancers. They're doing a rigorous amount of competitive work that it's just incredibly physically hard. And initially, when we started doing senior program, there was a sharp partition. There was no overlap. Even within scheduling, there was no overlap between being in the building or interacting with each other. Over time, that has changed, where there is interaction in the hallway, there's interaction within the class itself, and it has had a profound effect on invigorating the seniors movement and also invigorating our young people. I have a real quick 2-second guest that's going to pop over here. This is Bailey. She is 15 and she's one of our daytime students that participates and volunteers in Dance for Parkinson's and Golden Swans. And I just want you to tell us super fast what that experience has been for you.
Okay, I'm Bailey. I'm 15 years old. I'm a pre-professional student at the Oklahoma City Ballet Day program. I dance 2 to 30 hours a week, and I hope to be a professional dancer. I like to participate in Dance for Parkinson's and Golden Swans when I can. It reminds me that dance is fun and inspiring and reassuring that I can dance as long as I want to. There's no limit in time I need to stop. It's an important part of our organization.
Thanks, Bailey. You can run back to your rehearsal now. Mental health within our building, within our dancers, has improved dramatically by having that interaction, that example of there's not a finite timeline on how long you're going to dance. There's also been the building of relationships where when they are excited to see each other and the expectation that they will see each other again the following week, which has created a beautiful community fabric. I will say also that having the senior programming within our beautiful facility adjacent to company dancers has helped invigorate them with the idea that what they're doing is important, and it is. It's important to our building, it's important to our organization, it's important to our community. As recently as last week, I had a Golden Swan leave, and I said, lovely work today, dancers. I'll see you next week. And she said, oh, well, we're not dancers. And I said, well, I beg your pardon. You're coming into the same facility as the company dancers. You're taking class. You have an upcoming performance. You are, in fact, a dancer. So not qualifying that with I'm old and I dance. Oh, I just do Golden Swans. I'm just a dancer. So the impact that it's had on our organization all the way around has been huge. We're just really grateful that we have been able to have the opportunity to offer this programming and look forward to doing more of it in the future. I feel like I've been talking a million years, so I'm going to zip it on that note.
Wow, Erica, that was great. Thank you so much. I am looking at the time and we are scheduled to conclude at 3, but I wanted to open up this space for those who can hang another moment. If there were some any questions, we're a smaller group and we might be able to just have a conversation. Anything that you'd like to share, any reflections, feel free to just unmute and come on in. And it's also a lot to process. And this is not the end of the conversation. This is a good time for me to plug the next thing coming up, which will be for us another workshop on, oops, hi, there we are. So sorry, this one here. Does everyone see my slide? Creative Aging webinar? No? Just a second. Okay, I'll give you the details right verbally. If you know the folks at Old School Clearinghouse, this is a book by Ashton Applewhite. She and other researchers, therapists, and advocates have started this organization. And on May the 25th, from 1 to 2:30, we will be hosting their workshop. It will be on Zoom. It will be an hour and a half. It will be very interactive, and we're gonna dig in. We have a capacity for 100 people in this workshop, so I'm gonna do the legwork of getting everyone invited. So please help me spread the word. I'll be following up with the registration about that. Okay, well, I am full. I'm inspired. I've got so much to think about. I feel really energized to do this work. Thank you, Erica and Dr. Julie. Thank you for your work, and thank you for taking the time to share it with us today. Okay, with that, we can say goodbye. Yay. Whoa, I didn't have time for questions. Okay, I've noted.
That was wonderful though. Thank you. That was such a perfect pairing.
Yeah, that was excellent. Thank you. And I will circle back soon. We can check in about the work at Oklahoma City Healthy Living.
And
okay.
Please add me to your email list because I met Ashton and we've done some panels together. So I would love to attend next or whatever, May.
That would be wonderful.
And CBS, she was on the CBS Sunday morning segment with you.
Yes.
This is Dr. Julie, this is Chandra, our deputy director. Thanks to Chandra and her fangirl, but also your habit of watching a certain program at a certain time on the weekend. And she's the one that reached out. And so anyway, that was very fortuitous. I can't wait to continue this work with you.
That's great. So,
all right. Have a great weekend. See you soon.
Right, thanks. Thank you. You guys.
Okay. All righty. Bye-bye.